In today's video, I wanted to talk about how you can use anger to release any frustrations or sadness, especially very deep sadness, because anger is actually a form of very deep sadness. Um, I had a very direct experience with this on Thursday night, and so I needed to take yesterday off to recuperate and to sit with myself, to allow myself to process. But essentially, what happened was I was extremely triggered, and this trigger was so beautiful, and I was so grateful for it because it put me into a whole next level of anger and rage that I've not experienced in a long time. And I allowed myself to actually feel it. Normally and typically, I would suppress that anger, or I would just not really allow myself to feel it, or I certainly would not allow myself to have like a proper freak out to release that energy from my body. And this time I completely let it. As a matter of fact, Spirit was telling me to let it, and Spirit was also guiding me to use this anger and use this frustration as fuel to direct it in the right way, in the correct way. And that when you correctly direct the energy of anger into your transformation, into breaking free from a certain pattern or a certain way of thinking or a certain belief system that maybe you have had for a really, really long time, especially if the belief system has been stuck or keeping you stuck, or just a feeling where you just were not breaking past like a certain barrier within yourself, then that is the perfect thing to channel your anger and frustration into. And especially as a woman, like I feel like we're often taught to be the more, docile and be the more soft or nurturing energy. But at the same time, if you're not addressing the frustrations that you're feeling, and if you're not allowing yourself to feel them on a very raw and wild and unapologetic form, I'm seeing it as fire. So when you're like kind of dampening or you're putting out your fire because you're not comfortable, or you're not even necessarily comfortable, but just like if you're always telling yourself, or if you have a belief that you have to like hold it together all the time, especially if you have family, then that's a very toxic thing to do. It's very unhealthy. It's really, really important to allow it out. And I can feel so much peace actually. I feel so calm and so good. I actually feel like I had a massive, massive breakthrough. And that anger is what broke through that final wall, that final piece of whatever restriction was inside of me that was not allowing me to fully step into this very fearless, very unapologetic version of myself. A lot of times we have like these hidden ceilings within us that we don't even realize that we have. And you could do a whole ton of spiritual work, and you can do a whole ton of shadow work and, shedding your things and journaling and doing all these things. But if you are never allowing yourself to rage, if you are never allowing yourself to just lose your shit once in a while, like just to move into that very animalistic, that really powerful, because that's what it feels like. Like anger is really, really powerful. It is often a catalyst for change. It is often the exact fuel that you need to break through some type of barrier or break through a situation. If you're not using that, if you're not harnessing that power, then you're missing out. Then you're, in my opinion, suppressing. Like you're just not letting yourself go there. You know what I mean? And there's also something to be said for balance, right? Because this isn't about being in that rage and that anger all the time. It's just when it appears. Because at first, the way it started for me was like the trigger came, and I immediately, like, my heart started pounding, and I just immediately went into this like, I could feel myself wanting to contain it. I could feel myself wanting to like, okay, calm down. Immediately my brain was telling me to calm down and like breathe and blah, blah, blah. And then something just kind of snapped. And I was like, and actually there was a very specific video that popped up after, because I just clicked to YouTube for a quick second, and there was a very specific video that popped up, and it just Oh my God, she said all the exact right things. And she was talking about how important it is to feel your anger and frustration, not to sit in that energy, but just to let it rise when it wants to rise. And boy, did I let it rise. Oh my God. And it really, truly felt so good. It was just so liberating. It freed my soul in a way I can't even tell you. And I feel like this was building for such a long time. And I feel like this was accumulating, and it would like bit by bit and drop by drop, and every single thing and situation and bullshit in my life that I was tolerating was just like slowly adding and adding and adding to this ball of rage that was within me. And then in that moment it was just like, I'm done. And I was screaming at God. I was screaming at the top of my lungs and just expressing how sick and tired I was of certain situations, and how sick and tired I was of certain things, like I'm like not seeing external results to, my efforts, and things not changing and things like that. And even now I can feel it, like just there's still like a little bit of that energy in there. But it's like now I can, in a very controlled way, tap into that feeling and use it as fuel. It's like I've not used anger as fuel in this magical way before. Like before, it was just anger and I was pissed, and then I would rage, and then I would be angry for like days or maybe even a whole week. And then I didn't really change anything. Like there was no like breakthrough, where this time I channeled that anger and that frustration into like an absolute breakthrough. I could feel something literally snap within me. And that snapping was not my mind. It wasn't like that kind of a snap. It was this busting open, this breaking open of this barrier, some kind of a barrier that I was feeling within myself, some kind of a restriction. And I feel like it really connected to like a belief system or some kind of a limitation that I was still holding within myself without realizing. So I just want to encourage any of you that are feeling a lot of grief, a lot of deep sadness, to not just sit in that energy and don't just wallow in that energy, but actually, and again, if you feel called to, if it naturally sort of, there's some type of an external trigger or something that kind of initiates that, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why you're feeling that frustration and that anger, and you got to let yourself really feel it in that moment. Like anything that would have crossed my hands at that point, I would have ripped to shreds. Like that was the level of rage that I was feeling, and that was like surfacing, and that was releasing actually out of me. And honestly, like I'm telling you, this was magical. Like it was so freaking good, because it really, well, first of all, it allowed me to see how frustrated I actually am with certain situations or with the progression of my life. Let's just put it that way. Despite putting in immense amount of effort and immense amount of time and commitment and dedication to my own evolution and to my own overcoming, to my own releasing. And two, it showed me that I can really use anger as a form of fuel, as like energetic fuel to channel into those limitations that I feel within myself, and to directly push it into that, where you're not freaking out on someone else. You're not projecting that anger onto anyone else. You're not, laying it on somebody else. You know what I mean? In this case, I was kind of a little bit laying it on God, but it wasn't even I was laying it on God. I was just telling God how frustrated I was, and I was expressing it. And it felt actually really good to express it and to say it out loud, because I know so many times on this journey I have felt that within myself, but didn't necessarily express it and didn't say it. So just giving myself permission to actually say it and let God know how annoyed I was, and how I was no longer going to tolerate certain situations in my life, and how I am absolutely done. It was like this full realization and commitment simultaneously to my new beginning. It was like, I'm done with this old fucking chapter. I am closing the door on this bitch, and I'm slamming it, and I'm locking it. And yeah, I'm grateful. And yeah, okay, awesome that I experienced everything I experienced, and the awareness that it got me to the point where it got me, but I'm done. but I'm done. Like, no more. I'm done with that chapter. The new chapter begins now. Like, now. So I just wanted to kind of share that and put that out there because how, like I said, liberated, how free and how good I feel right now. And it just allowed me to move into a state of surrender and also into a state of more self-assurance, more confidence within myself, and a much, much deeper knowing that I deserve the absolute fucking best. That I am absolutely and wholeheartedly worthy of everything that I desire. And that I will not settle for anything less. So I'm going to suggest to you, and this is a place that you have to arrive at, but I'm going to suggest to you, if you're feeling sad or melancholy, can you just let yourself get mad? Can you just let yourself get angry? Can you allow yourself to feel that frustration and like rage it out? And I would recommend you doing this privately, of course. If you can do this when you're alone and just get it out of your system. I can't even tell you. I was so exhausted afterwards. I was so tired. And even yesterday, I was so tired. I didn't have the energy nor the desire to give to anyone or to do anything. It was full on just be with yourself and rest and don't do anything and let yourself recuperate from this incredible release of energy. And I had to let myself just be kind and loving to myself. And I laid on the couch and I had to keep reminding myself because occasionally, the guilt or something would come up a little bit that wanted me to get going and do something and be productive. But I was like, no, this is productive. This is how I'm being productive right now, is by resting and just letting myself stabilize and come back into an energy that feels good and complete and harmonious and peaceful. So I don't know who needs to hear this message, but I know that Spirit had me talking about it. It was the first thing that came to mind this morning that I should talk about this. I think a lot of people right now are moving through some big changes and are reaching a lot of cycle completions. And there's just a lot of this type of energy in the atmosphere at the moment. And I feel like if you're coming across this video, there's a reason for that, and there's probably a certain level of frustration that you have reached within yourself, and you need to now kind of let yourself rage it out, let yourself just express it without judgment, let yourself feel it without judgment instead of bypassing, instead of distracting yourself, and get it out of your system, because that's sort of, to me, in the way that I was shown by Spirit, is this is how you're kind of completing this cycle. Anger and rage and frustration and feeling of it and acknowledging it is actually what gives you your breakthrough. And this isn't always the case, and that's not always what we need to do. Use your own discernment and your own intuition. But when it arises and when it's definitely in your face, then that is the moment when you just need to let it happen, and you need to allow that to create that breakthrough within you. You got to get so frustrated, so annoyed, so fed up with a situation, with something in your life that you're just so fucking done with. You have to get to that point and reach that point within yourself, because it truly will create your breakthrough. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And that's what I wanted to share. And I know for a fact that Spirit is going to put this video in front of whoever needs to see it, whoever needs to hear this message at this time. So I'm completely trusting in the divine, and I'm trusting in my own process. And I am wishing you a beautiful weekend. I'm going to go and put some Christmas lights up today, and I will see you very soon in the next video.